This program will take an input of a string, and they'll split it at some point to get the maximum amount of ones on the right side, the maximum amount of zeros on the left side, to add up to the maximum amount you can add up to. So, for example, the maximum amount for this one would be 5, because there are 4 ones on this side and 1 0 on this side. This would be the place to split, making 5. So 5 is the maximum amount you get. So so the way we would do this is a fast way to do this would be to have a hash. So you would have for the zeros. For the left side, you would have, when you see 0, on index 0, if you split here, then you get 1 0. If you split here, then you get 1 0. That's what this and this is where you split. So when you split at index 2, 0, 1, 2, which would be here, you get 2 zeros because you found another 0, and it keeps on going. And same for just this time for the 1. So 0 for 1 actually means this 0, because the ones would be splitting, would be counting on the other side. So it's going backwards to the array because it counts on the other side. So the ones would have, so over here, if you split here, you'd have 1 1. If you split here, you'd have 2 1s, 3, and the maximum you could get with 1 is 4. And that's when you split at 4. So you have a function. So that's what the program does. It has 2 hashes, and then it decides which ones can add up to the length of the string. So for example, 0 plus 4 would be equal to this entire thing. So that's where it would add up to see how big it is, and it would do that with each one. So this one would be plus this split. If you have 1 and this 3, that means you split here. So that's what it does. And so it would add it up to get the maximum 1. And so it has a function split to get max, which would get the string. Then have count 0 be equal to 0. Count 0 to make the hash for 0. So h would be equal to the 0's hash. It'll flow through the thing from left to right. It'll have string I, which will be equal to string I, instead of just having to do string I every single time. If string I is equal to 0, that means you increment the count and you add it to h with equal to again 0. So hi, which would be 0 in this case, you found 1 0 at the start, so you increment count 0 and have count 0 then here as 1. And then you go to the next one. You see this. There's this 0, so you don't increment count 0, so it's still 1. So h1 would be 1, and it'll keep on doing it. So and then count 1 will be equal to 0, and h2 will be equal to empty, and j, we'll need a new j this time, because this is counting backwards. So if we had so if we just used hj, this would be a 4, and it would be going backwards like that. So instead you have to have a j. And if you use hi, again, this would be a 4. So instead you have to have a j, which would be making this a 0 and a 1. So if we loop through backwards, and string I will be equal to string I again, so you don't need it. If string I is equal to 1, then you increment count 1, and you do the same thing. Just instead of doing hi like earlier, you will do h2j equal to count 1, because j needs to be 0, and then it'll increment j to go up, just like okay? And then I'll have j equal to the length of h minus 1. This will be for h2, so you'll be able to get this, and then you'd have I, which would be equal to this. So I would be 0, and then max count will start for 0. If the length h minus 1 is equal to 0, then that means that it's 1 long. It's just 1 long. So it'll return h2j plus hi, which would just be this plus the ending, which would be the same thing. And so that will turn into 3 for I in range 0 to length h minus 1. So because j is at the end and I is at the start, they will always add up. And then j decrements, then I increments. They will always add up to the length of the string, so that each one is a place to split. So if j plus I is equal to length h minus 1, a will be equal to hi plus h2j. So for example, 1 plus 4 would be 5, so because you have so if you split over here, then you find 4 1s and 1 5 and 1 0, so that will add up to 5. So so over here a would be equal to 5, and if a is bigger than the max count, which is the maximum we found so far, then they'll update it to be equal to the new max, and then I'll decrement j, and I will increment because the for loop. And then once it leaves, it will return the max count, which in this case would be 5, because 5 is the maximum amount of 1s and 0s if you split it. And then a will be equal to that, the function, and then I'll print a, which in this case will be 5 as I earlier explained.